Good evening. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. It's nearly springtime, and it's a pleasure to welcome Mary Kissel to the studio when it's nearly springtime. Mary Kissel of the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal and the host of Opinion Journal at WSJ Live at 1 o'clock, and I watch Mary's Opinion Journal live later. You can go online and watch it. I don't watch it live. And Mary's here now, so we can discuss a few of the conversations these last hours. It was of interest to me that you, Mary, good evening to you.
Hi, John. It's, by the way, this may feel like spring in New York, but this is actually winter in South Florida.
Winter. Oh, I see. You're playing the Florida card here. Okay, I was trying to cheer everybody up. I understand.
Oh, sorry.
Fine.
You're a Pennsylvanian.
Florida's ahead of us. I understand that. Fine. People in Florida appreciate the fact that I'm not experiencing your weather now. So 50 degrees in New York feels like springtime after that winter. A week ago, we were all buried in snow, and now I saw the last of the snow being broken up on the streets today, and good for us. It's springtime. We're ready to talk Yankees and Mets, but tonight we're going to talk ISIS. You spoke with Eric Gibson.
That was such a transition, John.
Well, the ISIS is conducting a war on civilization in a fashion that, according to your colleague, is unprecedented. He mentioned that Rome has been sacked 6 times in the last 2,000 years, and the statues are still there. But ISIS is using bulldozers on the Assyrian archaeological sites in northern Iraq, Nineveh and Nimrud. These are 2 cities that have been there for several thousand years, and they are associated with a civilization that is pre-Islamic. It's pre-Roman. It's contemporary with the early stages of forming codes of law, codes of conduct. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the 21st century interpretation of what is or is not Islamic. And yet, the violence against these sites, and if I understand it, Mary, no one's doing anything about it. It's regarded as a no-go zone.
Well, there's nothing that they can do about it right now, John, because the administration did not leave any U.S. troops in Iraq. Imagine what would have happened if we had left 10,000, 15,000 U.S. troops in Iraq.
There'd be no ISIS.
There would be no ISIS. Right. There would be no cultural... But look, we don't want to minimize, of course, the human tragedy here. That comes first. But secondarily, this cultural obliteration that you talk about, this is really... something that's very insidious, because what they're effectively trying to do is to wipe out our memory of civilization, our cultural heritage in a part of the world that really gave birth to much of the rest of the world.
I recall Caesarea, which is on the coast of Israel, and it's a Roman city that was the important part of the Roman province of Judea at the time, Palestine. And in the building blocks that you can see along the coastline of the Turkish empire that arrived in the 15th century, and even before that with the invaders, Islamic invaders, you can see that Roman columns have been used for foundation material, and the Roman columns had, at one point, faces on them, carvings on the side, and the faces have been chipped off. So we're looking at a particularly strange conduct of Islamic warriors in the invasion mode over 1,000 years ago. I always puzzled about it. Was that an accident? Did it fall over? No, apparently all of that had been iconography that was ruled as unacceptable, as part of the infidels. But here we are in the 21st century, and they're destroying what you'd have to say are artifacts that don't belong to them, that don't speak to anyone alive.
But John, this was always the conceit of this White House. They said we're in this century, when they didn't realize that they were actually dealing with men, and to a much lesser extent women, who are not of this century and who want to wipe history of any artifact before Muhammad. And so what you're seeing, and I talked to Eric Gibson today, he's our arts and review editor, about the destruction of the Assyrian capital of Khorsabad, which is a story that has not gotten a lot of attention. We had the video from the Mosul Museum last week, but this destruction continues on a daily basis, and I think you get inured to it because, it's just a constant news story. They're rolling through these towns every day, bulldozing and hammering and destroying. these real pillars of Mideast history. And what Eric raised, which I hadn't thought much about, is the fact that the museum in Baghdad has just reopened and is holding many of the treasures of that part of the world, and that this is really the ultimate goal of ISIS is to march into the heart of Baghdad and to destroy everything that museum has to offer.
There is no transition to the 21st century, so we'll just leap there. We'll push the button of the time machine and we'll go forward. You had a conversation with a professor of law at Yale University.
Oh, John Macy, yeah, one of my favorite
Professor
guests.
Macy, and you were discussing the SEC. Preet Bharara of the Southern District of New York is the very powerful, very successful U.S. attorney. And what I learned from your conversation today, and with a conversation I had about a week ago with Anita Raghavan, who wrote a profile for the New York Times Magazine on Rumi Khan. Rumi Khan is a woman these days who is out of jail and in a recovery position after spending years in jail for insider trading. She was the cooperating witness that provided information to the government to make its case against Rajaratnam, the great prosecution of galleon insider trading. What I learned from Anita, however, is insider trading is a moving story. It has changed several times over even the last 15 years. So one insider's trading in 1998 is not another insider trading in 2015.
Right. Well, the government likes to keep the rules very vague so that they can prosecute people whom they politically want to attack. And that was John Macy's point, that it is not clear what is legal or illegal. And what he was highlighting today was actually a fight between two branches of government. Preet Bharara, whom you just referenced, is a very successful U.S. attorney here in Manhattan, but he overreached last year, and he tried to prosecute two fellows who had absolutely no knowledge that they were trading on so-called, quote, inside information. And so the U.S. Second Court of Appeals said, that's absurd. We're throwing this case out. It was very embarrassing to Mr. Bharara. So what's really happening now is that Democrats in the Senate are saying, well, we don't like what the judiciary did to Mr. Bharara, embarrassing him. We want to propose a new set of insider trading rules that will allow Mr. Bharara and other government attorneys more latitude to prosecute insider trading. So it's this kind of tug of war between the judiciary that is enforcing the laws on the books and the minority in Congress that says, no, we want those laws to be stronger, and they point to the regulators and they say, hey, regulators, SEC, can't you make it a little bit stronger for us so that we can prosecute more people? The conversation that they should be having and that they're not having is, are there victims of insider trading? No, there are no victims of insider trading. Should we even have laws against insider trading? No, we shouldn't have laws against insider trading.
And the solar system, no one else has anything comparable to our system.
Similar to this. I mean, what you actually want for markets to function is as much information as possible. You want to let everybody talk to everybody else. Yes, you want the CEO to take a bet on his stock, and if he thinks that the stock's going to go up and the market sees that he buys 1 million of his shares, well, guess what? People are either going to pile in and follow this guy, or they're going to say, you're nuts, buddy, good luck, you're going to lose a lot of money, and they'll short the stock against him.
My historical reading on insider trading is that in order to defeat one shark, you have lots of sharks.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
the markets are built upon the idea that you get faster, better insider trading for just a moment, insider information for just a moment, and then your rivals will beat you at it.
But the SEC's conceit is that everyone in the market should have the same information at exactly the same time.
That means they have to suppress it, and then suppressing it becomes part of a what you'd have to say, cop on the beat is to a judgment call.
Which is absurd.
Right.
It's completely unrealistic. It's totally absurd.
That's what I learned from talking about Rumi Khan's years, because she had been at a fax machine at Intel in 1998, old technology now. She had been faxing information about Intel's quarterly report to Rajaratnam, who was at that time leaving as an analyst and becoming a hedge fund. This is years before he became a billionaire. They installed a camera at the fax machine, And she got caught at it, but there were no particular rules of what she was doing wrong. Intel said, we don't think you should do that. She left the company and went and became a millionaire, trading with Raj and on her own account. And then one day the FBI tapped on the door and she welcomed them in, and they said, oh, by the way, we have a camera on you faxing material in 1998. Are you going to cooperate with
John,
us?
do you think they have a camera on us right now?
Yes, there is a camera on us. We're not on insider trading.
No, we're not.
The reason I'm telling this story is because it's so whimsical. It's so anecdotal. It's
so arbitrary,
Yes.
John. It's the arbitrary use of government power against our citizens. That's what it is.
And Rumi, her life is very limited now. And she, among all others, was picked out and used and turned and used in the prosecution of Raj Rajaratnam. And I believe it's a tragedy for her. Raj, he has his own fate, and we'll hear when he comes back out of jail. However, what I learned today from Professor Macy is that it's still going on, the arbitrary interpretations.
The tug of war.
Yeah. Mary Kissel, editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, host of Opinion Journal at WSJ.live. We're turning to St. Patrick's Day next. I'm John Batchelor.